Now, our next guest is Robert Jenrick, the Immigration Minister and, of course, Member of Parliament for Newark. Robert, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let's dive straight in with something that you have done this week. 2 days ago, you wrote to every Chief Constable in England and Wales saying to refer people who have spoken out in support of the proscribed terrorist group Hamas, to refer them to the Home Office to potentially revoke the visas of those who support this organisation. How many people have been referred?
Well, good morning, Tom. Yes, it's very important to me and the Home Secretary that people who spread hate or support proscribed terrorist organisations like Hamas have no place in this country. A visa is a special privilege. It's not an entitlement, and if you commit comments that create hate or spread anti-Semitism, then you forfeit that privilege and you should have that visa revoked and you should be expelled from the UK. I've written to all Chief Constables across the country saying that they should refer individuals that come to their attention to the Home Office. There is a legal process to be followed, but as and when we receive those, we will consider them, and if they meet the legal bar, then we will absolutely revoke and expel them, and the first case is already under consideration.
Was that the first case or the first cases? Should I take from that one referral has been made?
No, there have been a number of referrals, and the first cases are being considered by the Home Office. I can't comment on the individual cases, but please be in absolutely no doubt of how strongly we feel that those people who commit these crimes, people who spread hate in our country, they should be removed. They shouldn't have a right to live in the UK and harm our citizens and British values.
That was very clear. Thank you for that. Now, the Jewish community in the UK, particularly perhaps the Jewish community in London, has been the victim of some terrible instances of open hatred on the streets of London. It's led some people to suggest that the remarks of your boss, Suella Braverman, perhaps weren't that wide of the mark when she suggested that multiculturalism in the United Kingdom has failed.
Well, firstly, we're going to do everything we can to support British Jews and to fight anti-Semitism. That's why we've given further funding to the Community Security Trust, who help to protect synagogues and Jewish schools. That's why we're working closely with the police and the Crown Prosecution Service to encourage them to rigorously and robustly enforce our laws so that individuals who fall below them are brought to justice. But it is more than just a question of legality. As you say, it's also a question about values. And some of the things we've seen over the course of the last 2 weeks do speak to a failure of some people in our country to live up to British values of civility and common decency, and have shown that there are issues of integration in our country. And it would be foolish of us to deny those or to bury our heads in the sand. We've got to confront them head on and ensure that we are a united and cohesive society.
Do those failures of integration and failures of some individuals to live up to the British values that you speak about, does that in your book reach the level of a failure of multiculturalism?
Well, I think that the UK is broadly one of the most successful multiracial democracies in the world. But as I say, we would be doing ourselves a disservice if we fooled ourselves into thinking that there weren't pockets of serious failure of integration and individuals who fall well below the standards that we should expect. Diversity is not a strength in and of itself. It is good in moderation, but we've got to ensure that we can successfully integrate individuals into our country so that there is a common sense of what it is to be British and a common sense of British values. That's what I want to see, and I think the pace of immigration over recent decades has been too fast, and we've struggled as a country to do integration as well as we should have done. That, I think, is what Suella Braverman was saying, and I fully support her.
Well, on from migration now to refugees, another part of your brief, because the First Minister of Scotland, Humza Yousaf, has called on, has said that he would be willing and able for Scotland to take in refugees from Gaza. Would the United Kingdom do the same across the country?
Well, I think that's premature. The first step is to help British nationals out of Gaza and into safety. We're working extremely hard, the Foreign Office and the Home Office, to secure the safe passage of those British nationals, working with Egypt and other neighbouring countries. That is critical at the moment. The second task, of course, alongside that, is to get humanitarian aid into Gaza. And we've had the first welcome step in that regard yesterday, with some trucks going through the Rafah crossing, providing essential food and medical supplies. We've got to ensure that they aren't diverted by Hamas, and they have a history of doing that. We need to get more supplies through to Gaza. And I don't think that the first thing we should leap to whenever there is a crisis in the world is migration. The UK should be a big-hearted nation that plays an important role in supporting people in difficult situations, but usually it is best to do that through diplomacy and through development aid.
Now you say that it's premature to talk about this, but I note, Robert Jenrick, that you're not ruling out taking non-British refugees from Gaza.
Well, I said we don't have a plan to do that, and the point I just made was that I don't think that that is the right approach. What we should be doing is using the assets of the UK, which is our relationships with countries like Egypt and Israel, and our development aid to support as many vulnerable people as possible in Gaza, rather than creating small schemes to privilege a small number of people. The priority is to get the British nationals out and humanitarian aid in a way which means it is not diverted and abused by the terrorist organisation Hamas.